Hello Keyforgers and welcome back. I am repping my lovely Grim Reminders mat here. Kraggy who gawks at the Town Council, love that name. This is my final sealed Menagerie deck. They are meant to be coming to retail, I believe in September, but I can't quite remember the date, so don't quote me on that. But let's get into it. I do like Menagerie. I first encountered it at Keyforge Celebration last year when I went. And I got a TikTok deck, well, what I call the TikTok deck, which is the Clocks deck. So here we have Kagami the Proudly Grunting. It is Mars, Brobnar, sorry, yep, having to think there, and Shadows, not used to the white symbols there. That is an amazing Archon, and we do have a token. Now the issue with tokens and Menagerie is that it could be a token generation card that put the token in there and there could only be one of them. Or it could be a deck full of token generation. I don't know. But let's take a closer look. There's that closer look. Little bit of whiting at the top there. I think that's just from the cut. Bottom card coming out. That's the deck list. This should be, yep, and our token. Yep, the Rebel. Right. I don't know what packets we've got because I haven't looked at the deck list, so there should be 2 packets. Each deck of Menagerie comes with something that is like a combo, so maybe we'll spot it as we go through. Turn over. We're starting out with Shadows. Subtle Auto, 1 power. Play. Your opponent discards a random card from their hand. Love it. Card hate. Miasma is an action. You get an amber when you play it. Play. Your opponent skips the Forge a Key step during their next turn. Bonithing, 2 power. Play. Steal 1 amber for each Forge Key your opponent has. A second Bonithing. Avinder, 4 power. After reap, deal 1 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, your opponent discards a random card from their hand. Bren the Fanatic, 3 power Skirmish. Play. Your opponent gains 1 amber. Destroyed, steal 3 amber. The Shadow Council, 3 power Elusive. While the Shadow Council is in the centre of your battle line, it gains action, steal 2 amber. One Last Job is an action. You get an amber when you play it. Play. Purge each friendly Shadows creature. Steal 1 amber for each creature purged this way. Mac the Knife, 3 power Elusive. You may use Mac the Knife as if it belonged to the active house. Action, deal 1 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, gain 1 amber. Now this has a Kota symbol on here, so I believe it's been pulled in as a packet. I might have the Thieves packet, but we will see. Throwing Stars is an action. Play, deal 1 damage to up to 3 creatures. Gain 1 amber for each creature destroyed this way. Rad Penny, 1 power. With a damage enhancement. Play, steal 1 amber, destroyed, shuffle Rad Penny into your deck. And again, pulled from Mass Mutation, so I think Thieves is our thing. A second Rad Penny, that's not too bad. Right, now we're on to Mars. John Smith, 2 power with Elusive. After fight and after reap, ready a non-agent Mars creature. A second John Smith. Yixlix Dominator, 9 power, 1 armor with Taunt. Yixlix Dominator enters play stunned. Mix the Tall-Minded, 5 power. Your opponent's keys cost +1 amber for each friendly Mars creature in play. A second Tall-Minded. INX Vatminder, 3 power, 1 armor. Play destroyed, make a token creature. Now, that's 1 token generation. Let's see if we get any more. Okay, a second Vatminder. INX Propaganda. It's an upgrade. You get an amber when you play it, and this one has a damage enhancement. This creature gains after fight, after reap, make a token creature. Okay, so Mars token generation here. Glixlix Weaponsmith, 4 power, 1 armor. It put 2 damage and 1 draw pip in the deck. Clone Home is an action. Play, make a token creature. If there are more friendly creatures than enemy creatures, archive Clone Home. Destroy them all is an action. Play, destroy an artifact, a creature, and an upgrade. Martians Make Bad Allies is an action. Play, reveal your hand, purge each revealed non-Mars creature and gain 1 amber for each card purged this way. Oh, and finally on to Brobnar. All our token generation in Mars there, which isn't bad with that Mars token. Let's see what we get here. Recklessness is an action. You get an amp when you play it. It put a damage and discard enhancement in the deck. Play. Each player discards 3 random cards from their hand, then draws 3 cards. Shiny. Love it. Jarl Svend, 7 power. After an enemy creature is destroyed fighting Jarl Svend, make a token creature. The token generation in Brobnar there. Fiery Jark, 4 power. Play. Destroy an enemy creature and a friendly creature. You may repeat this effect as many times as you like, as long as it is possible to repeat the entire effect. Brick Nasty, 5 power. After another friendly Brobnar creature fights, gain 1 amber. Bingle Bang Bang, 2 power. Before fight, deal 5 damage to each neighbour of the creature Bingle Bang Bang fights. A second Bingle Bang Bang. Smith is an action. You get an amber when you play it, and this one has a draw enhancement. Play, gain 2 amber if you control more creatures than your opponent. Ooh, a second Smith. This one has a damage and a discard enhancement. Follow the Leader is an action. Play, for the remainder of the turn, each friendly creature may fight. Broken Axe Outpost is an artifact. You get an amber when you play it. Action, put a friendly creature on the bottom of its owner's deck. If you do, deal 6 damage to an enemy creature. War Chest is an artifact. Action, gain 1 amber for each enemy creature that was destroyed in a fight this turn. Ooh, Khalifi Dragon. 12 power. Khalifi Dragon cannot be played unless you have 7 amber or more. After fight, after reap, gain 1 amber, deal 5 damage to a creature. That was definitely a packet, just the dragon itself. Right, let's have a breakdown. I don't think I mentioned the name of the deck. When I opened it, it was Kagami the Proudly Grunting. Make of that what you will. There were 10 actions, 23 creatures, 2 artifacts and 1 upgrade in this deck. We had 7 printed amber, which is quite low, but we did have 3 damage enhancements, 1 draw enhancement and 1 discard enhancement. Now our pods were the Rad Penny pod, which I can't quite remember what it said, 2 secs. It was pennies for amber. So we got the 2 Rad Pennies, and then we got the Throwing Stars and the Mac the Knife, both ways of taking them out, so we can recur them because they shuffle back into our deck. The other one was the Khalifi Dragon, and it appears to also have dragged in the War Chest, which works quite well with the Khalifi Dragon itself, and we'll have a look at that in a sec. If we start with Amber Control, in Mars we had the 2 Minx, the Tall-Minded. I'm sure that's not how you pronounce it, but it's how I'm going to pronounce it. 5 power. Quite a nice beefy body for a Mars creature. Your opponent's keys cost +1 amber for each friendly creature in play. Now we had quite a few cards that dealt with token generation, and there were 4 of them in Mars. We had the 2 Iron-X Vatminders, we had the Clone Home, and we had the Iron-X Propaganda upgrade. We had that Jarl Svend in Brobnar as well, so if you've got these on the board, there's a chance that we might be able to increase our opponent's key cost, especially with 2, quite a bit. The rest of the Amber Control, as you might expect, was in Shadows. Now there are 9 Shadows creatures. But we did have the Miasma, the action, the You Shall Not Forge. During your Forge a Key step anyway, it will not prevent key cheats. We had the Shadow Council. The Shadows Leader, 3 power elusive. We have to have it in the centre of our battle line to give it the action, steal 2. The 2 Bone Nithings. 2 power, steal 1 for each forge key your opponent has. We had the Brend. Now the Brend will give your opponent 1 amber. Destroyed, steal 3 amber. We do have ways of taking it out on our turn, but not without taking other things out. We have some damage enhancements. We have ways of pinging it for 1 damage. If we can take it out, great, but just bearing in mind you are giving your opponent the amber, but it's not too bad because we have so much steal. So it might just be giving yourself an amber, because we might then want to play Rad Penny. Now we have 2. 1 hit a damage enhancement, which is annoying because you cannot play it on its own. Because you activate the abilities on a card from top down, as soon as it enters play, the damage enhancement has to go first, and it will have to damage the Rad Penny if there are no other creatures, which will kill it before the play effect takes effect, so you won't steal one, but you will shuffle it into your deck. Now finally, we had one last job. Action card, you purge each friendly Shadows creature, and you steal 1 amber for each creature purged this way. If you purge Brend, you do not get the destroyed effect, just bear that in mind. If you purge Red Pennies, the destroyed effect does not allow them to be put back into the deck, they will get removed from the game. Now with the Avinder and the Mac the Knife that we need to start taking out these Rad Pennies, one last job, not that effective in this deck. Now anything that was steel, which was most of that there, can be also considered expected amber. We had Martians make bad allies. Reveal your hand. So your opponent is going to be able to see your hand, and then you purge each revealed non-Mars creature and you gain 1 for each card purged this way. Again, we've got quite good creatures, but if we're on our second key and we've got a handful of creatures and we think I just need that ramp, let's do it. John Smith, 2 power elusive, after fight, after reap, ready a non-agent Mars creature. Now a good thing to ready there might be our Iron X Vat Minders, because when we play them, we get a token creature, and when they're destroyed, so we can fight with them, we get another token creature. So we can potentially get 2 rebels on the board in the same turn, plus gain an amber, or you can reap with the Vat Minders. Depends what your board state is like. Then in Brobnar, we had that War Chest. Action, gain 1 amber for each enemy creature that was destroyed in a fight this turn. Now that works very, very well with Follow the Leader. For the remainder of the turn, each friendly creature may fight. Now I don't know how that works with splash damage, because it's technically not damage dealt in a fight, it's an effect after fight. So I don't know if the War Chest would take into account a creature that was destroyed with the deal 5 damage to a creature after fight. I think it would only take into account if the creature Khalifi Dragon fought died. But being able to fight with every single creature in your battle line, that is going to make the War Chest a lot more effective. The Khalifi Dragon itself works quite well with Brick Nasty. Yes, there's a restriction on when you can play it, but with the Shadows in our house, there's a chance we might be able to start our turn on 5, 6, maybe 7 amber if our opponent is increasing our key costs. Now after fight and after reap, you gain 1, so if you reap you're actually gaining 2, and then you deal 5 damage to a creature. We also had 2 Smith. If we can have that board presence, these are huge ramps in amber. They also got the most enhancements in the deck. 1 with a draw, 1 with a damage and a discard. If we play it, we gain 2 amber if we control more creatures. Otherwise, we just gain 1. Then the amber generation that I put with the Rad Pennies was, again, like I said, the Mac the Knife, which has a built-in Seeker Needle, really. You can use it as if it belonged to the active house, so it's technically omni-action. Deal 1 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, gain 1 amber. But because you can use it as if it belonged to the active house, you could also fight and reap with it as well. It's just it's been placed in the deck to be used with the Rad Pennies. Along with the Throwing Stars, which is an action, deal 1 damage to up to 3 creatures. Gain 1 amber for each creature destroyed this way. So if you've played 2 Rad Pennies, they've stolen 2, then you can play Throwing Stars to deal 2 damage to them, shuffle them back into your deck, and gain another 2 amber. It's quite a nice ramp up there. Artifact control, we have that destroy them all. Destroy an artifact, a creature, and an upgrade. There is no may in that, so just be careful. You will have to destroy 1 artifact, 1 creature, and an upgrade, even if they're yours, if they are the only ones on the board. Creature control, again, you could put destroy them all, and you can also put our rebel in there, our token creature, 1 power after reap, deal 1 damage to a creature. Now that is also another way. If we have a few, we could take out our own Brend that way. We had the Avinder in Shadows. Deal 1 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, your opponent discards a random card from their hand. I love card hate. And this card gets me an amber and deals damage for doing it as well. We can also do it to our Rad Pennies. In Brobnar, we had the 2 Bingle Bang Bang. 2 power before fight, deal 5 damage to each neighbour of the creature Bingle Bang Bang fights. Almost like a grenade going off on your opponent's battle line there. The Broken Axe Outpost. The only artifact we had, sorry, one of the 2 artifacts that we had in the deck, put a friendly creature on the bottom of its owner's deck. If you do, deal 6 damage to a creature. Quite nice for cycling our token creatures again, if we want the card underneath. And then we had the Fiery Jark. Destroy an enemy creature and a friendly creature. We can repeat it as long as we can repeat those effects, which works quite well with our rebels. They are token creatures, and again, works quite well with our rad pennies as well. If we get in low on our deck and we think we're going to have a shadows turn next turn, destroy your red pennies, destroy your opponent's creatures, draw into the pennies, you know you're going to be able to steal next turn. With efficiency, we had the recklessness. We talked about it in the last video. Discard 3 random cards from each player's hand, and then each player draws 3 cards. We control that. We don't have any scrap effects in here to activate, but if we're in a Brobnar turn and we want to draw into more Brobnar, fantastic. We had those 2 red pennies and the draw enhancement as well. In Disruption, we had the Recklessness, the Avinder we just talked about, and the Subtle Otto as well. Your opponent discards a random card from their hand. And Recursion was the Broken Axe Outpost, and also the rad pennies recur as well, but they don't recur in the same way as a regrowth straight to your hand. The token generation was primarily in Mars, except for 1 card, which was that Jarl Svend. We had the 2 Vat Minders, the Ironex Propaganda, and the Clone Home. So actually being able to make rebels in a Menagerie deck is quite nice. Usually, or sometimes, you can hit a Menagerie deck, you've got a token, but you've only got 1 card that produces that token. This is quite nice. The only other 2 cards we haven't really talked about are the Dominator, 9 power, 1 armor with Taunt. Very nice to put maybe your Mac the Knife behind, or your Avinder behind. A bit of protection, and that Weaponsmith, which I guess we talked about the draw enhancement there. It's a very nice Menagerie deck. It probably plays quite well. Shadows is horrible, and Mars is not nice. The Brobnar, having that Khalifa Dragon out would be fun. Used to be the chase card really early on when Keyforge started. Probably a lot easier to bring into play now than it was back then. I don't have any more Menagerie decks sealed, but I do have a couple that are good that I might share with you. I might do a deck review and analysis there, because they are starting to run tournaments at Vault Tours and possibly Worlds, where they have a mini tournament where you take your best Unchained or Menagerie deck. I think at the last Vault Tour, no one bought Unchained, everyone bought Menagerie, and you have like a mini tournament there, which is quite nice. So I might try and find one to take to Italy and to Worlds this year. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to have a look at this deck on the Master Vault. I'm not too sure if you can play these on TCO at the moment. I don't think you can, but maybe in the future you will be able to. But all that remains for me to say is good luck, have fun, keep forging.